For most people, financial planning isn't really about spreadsheets and market returns. It's about taking care of the people that mean the most to you, right? So if something happens, are those people taken care of? So today we're talking about protection, what financial protection looks like, what do you need to be focused on, what can you put in place to make sure those loved ones are taken care of. Welcome then to All Things Retirement. I am Ben George. He is Anthony Aulffo with the Cardinal Wealth Group. And Anthony, talk about financial protection today. I know this, a lot of people just think about, hey, I'm working with an advisor. I'm just trying to get returns, investing, saving money, accumulation. But so much of what you do is about protecting everything that someone's built, right?
Absolutely. We say a lot of times, like, you're going to retire in the future, but unfortunately, you could not make it to that point. So it makes sense to spend some time thinking about the what ifs in life and how best to protect those things that you love the most.
Yeah, as we go through this today, remember, you can always reach out to Anthony. All the contact info is in the show description as well. If you were worried about protection or, hey, looking to have conversations about any of these items that we talked about today that maybe you haven't paid a lot of attention to yet, now is the time to do that. And you can always reach out, cardinalwg.com. And let's start life insurance. I think this is the one that probably comes to mind most when somebody thinks about protecting themselves. It's probably the most direct form of protection, but it's easy to overlook for a lot of people too, or at least to put off down the road.
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody wants another bill to pay for. And I think really where you would start is kind of say, let's walk through this financially. If something were to happen to you tomorrow and, jokingly say, I'm going to kill you off today and see what happens, and get a sense of, broadly speaking, who you care for, your type of lifestyle that you have, things that you're paying for, like school, college, debt pay down, and then even things about in the future, like retirement, college education for your kids, and things of that nature, and trying to get some numbers around those things. And I mean, you could really do some napkin math to give it an eye-opening numbers to folks, but certainly we would use software, and the software would help us identify the different gaps that might exist today, along with different gaps in the future with those assumptions built in. And oftentimes you'll see, the biggest gaps are today because you're kind of assuming some of those debts will kind of go down over time, or you're saving up more money, but there's still a need in the future. So you can make it pretty easy to kind of show folks, that you don't quite have enough yet today if something were to happen. And life insurance is definitely one of those easiest tools, generally speaking, to utilize to fill those gaps if something were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned nobody wants another bill, but it does beat the alternative, right, of being kind of stuck. So should something happen to you. So life insurance definitely part of that conversation when you're talking about protecting your family.
With the caveat of, some health issues being there, it could be a little bit more expensive, or if you're a little bit older, it could be maybe a little bit more expensive, but you kind of have to look at the math and see if it's worth fitting into your budget. And oftentimes we'll say, listen, maybe the number that shows up from the software is, I'm making this up, $4 million, but you don't, if you can't afford $4 million because of health, age, or just budget, having something is certainly better than nothing. So even if you're like, let's start off with $1 million or $2 million, it's definitely going to make life a lot easier if one of those unfortunate situations were to happen.
Yeah, it's a good call, because I mean, a lot of times in a lot of different areas of financial planning, right, something is better than nothing in many
That's
cases.
right.
So something to keep in mind there. All right, another area of protection is the documents in your estate plan, right? Or, I think more specifically, beneficiary designations come into play quite a bit. And, it seems like an easy thing to pay attention to, Anthony, but not everybody has these up to date, do they?
I would say certainly more times than not, I feel like we hear that either there are no documents in place, or the documents are super old, or are not sure what they say. So, where the life insurance is kind of that financial engine to pay for things, we kind of look at those important documents as the roadmap as to where everything goes if you're not here tomorrow, to help those people navigate to find like where everything's at, where it goes to, who's taking care of those important people in your life if you have young ones. And I would take it a step further, like letter of instruction and password shares are something that we're kind of really advocating today too, to modernize a little bit even further beyond the estate documents. Estate documents say who gets what, but the letter of instruction is really a helpful document that we've talked about in the past. We've done an episode on it. It's just saying where everything's at, along with that password share. Those are two other important, I think, features that really can make it a much more robust process, make it a little bit easier on your loved ones if something were to happen, especially if they're not involved in all those financial conversations. So we're always advocating, scan those important documents into a file share, have that letter of instruction to say where all these accounts are at and that password to, so that they can actually get into those things to keep the lights on, pay the cable bill, pay the mortgage and stuff like that. Just making it a lot easier process.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we talked about that in the past. We've all talked about life insurance too in a little more depth as well. So go back to some of our past episodes if you want to learn a little bit more, but you can always reach out directly if you have specific questions for Anthony. So again, another area of protection there. And I like this next one too, longevity, Anthony, because we're living longer, which is great. Retirements are longer, but I don't think a lot of people think about, okay, a big risk is me living longer. They usually think that is a good thing and not a risk to your retirement, but it does bring a couple other factors into play, doesn't it?
Sure. I mean, the health insurance, the long-term care, disability that could happen as we live longer, bodies tend to break down. So, I take this into maybe two-pronged approach. First is like the financials. Do we have enough money without insurance, like long-term care insurance specifically? So that's one question. And sometimes people are going to self-insure, meaning using their retirement nest egg to pay for that extra type of cost for care if something like that were to happen. The other alternative at times is that maybe they don't quite have the finances there if a major event, some of these events could be quite expensive. Then it's more of like, okay, well, who's taking care of you if something like that were to happen? So it becomes more of a physical question of putting the time and energy to take care of a loved one. Could be a spouse, could be one of your children or a couple, children that are kind of overseeing and taking care of mom or dad if something were to happen. But it's super important to really have that conversation and really play those things out. Sometimes those loved ones are not even remotely close from a distance standpoint, so they're not even going to be really available. Others maybe don't really want to be involved or can't physically, take care and shower and provide the type of care that one of your loved ones would need. And then the other thing I would say is the cognitive. What's the plan there? Are you keeping tabs on, say mom or dad? How are they doing cognitively? Are playing a role to realize if they're starting to maybe slip a little bit mentally? Is there, frank discussion that it might be time for a power of attorney or some type of supportive decision-making team, healthcare proxies and things like that? So, we talk a lot of times about the insurance being an important part, and it is, because it can certainly help pay for the type of quality of care. But a lot of times folks are not paying for insurance because they want to self-insure, or they can't quite afford it. So then your family has to really play more of a role. So having those conversations with the family as to how are we going to take care of mom or dad because they took care of us physically and mentally as they start to go down. And, unfortunately, we see the other side of that as we're working with, some of our clients or our clients' parents and starting to see some of those types of experiences now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of life and why you take these extra steps to protect your family. And look, kind of all comes back to having an advisor too that you can count on. I know, Anthony, when situations are tough, there's not really a product you can reach for, right? And many people lean on the advisor, someone they trust and someone they built a relationship with to help them through these difficult situations and also help them prepare for what life's going to bring them.
Yeah, I think the advisor can play an objective part in identifying if somebody's starting to maybe slip a little bit. we certainly advocate to have trusted people on the accounts. It's just a way to have other folks that are involved in the process that the advisor, could call and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you. I want to see if you're noticing anything with mom. She's starting to maybe slip a little bit. We've noticed it on some meetings and stuff like that, where, they're hard conversations to have, but we have noticed those changes with clients in the past and have had those types of conversations. And then just even being a moderator to facilitate some of those types of conversations that a lot of people don't like to have. So I think that's some of the key roles that an advisor can play in that type of arena.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, protection is going to look a little bit different in every stage of life, right? But the reason for what you're doing in the planning stages is going to stay the same. It never changes. You want to protect what's most important to you, protect those people that matter the most in your life. And that's what real financial planning is built upon. And again, if you want to get a free assessment, right, you can begin that Cardinal success journey with Anthony and the team at the Cardinal Wealth Group right now. Just log on, cardinalwg.com. Begin that process, because you want to make sure you're protected and doing everything you can, right, to take care of those that mean the most to you. But these are some areas that you should be paying attention to. If you aren't having these conversations, you should be having them, right? And now is the time to do that. So hopefully this will give you some things to think about and hopefully work towards as you want to move forward in your financial life and your financial future. So thanks for tuning in. This is All Things Retirement. We appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done that already. We appreciate that support. And also let us know if you have any questions. We'll have another episode coming soon. Anthony, appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action.